You're brushing your teeth on an ordinary Tuesday, and out of nowhere, you're back in that argument. The one from 8 months ago. You're delivering the perfect comeback you never said out loud, defending yourself to someone who isn't even in the room, who probably hasn't thought about you in weeks. And somewhere around the third replay, a strange thought surfaces. Why am I still fighting a war that's already over? You've tried everything people tell you to try. You've tried to just let it go. You've tried distraction. You've tried telling yourself it doesn't matter anymore. And for a few hours, sometimes it even works. Then, you're standing in line somewhere, thinking about nothing in particular, and there it is again, fully loaded, word for word, like it never left. Most people assume this means something is wrong with their character, that they're petty, or vindictive, or simply worse at moving on than everyone else seems to be. But the truth is stranger than that, and a lot less about who you are as a person. Your mind isn't refusing to let go out of spite. It's running a program it genuinely believes is protecting you, and until you understand what that program is actually for, you will keep losing this fight. Welcome back to Mind to Act. Today we're breaking down the real psychology of grudges, not the moral lecture about forgiveness you've heard 100 times, but the actual mechanics of why some pain refuses to fade, what your mind thinks it's accomplishing by holding on, and how to finally close a loop that's been running for months or years without you ever choosing to start it. Let's start with the research, because this isn't just an internet theory. For decades, psychologist Everett Worthington at Virginia Commonwealth University has studied forgiveness and its opposite, unforgiveness, as a distinct psychological state, not simply the absence of forgiving. Worthington and colleagues found that unforgiveness behaves like a stress response. It shows up in the body as elevated cortisol, tightened muscles, disrupted sleep, the same physiological signature as an ongoing threat. Here's what makes that finding strange. The threat, in most cases, is over. The person isn't in the room. The event isn't happening again. And yet the body keeps responding as though it is, sometimes for years. That gap, between a threat that ended and a body that never got the message, is the entire subject of today's video. Here's the part that changes everything. A grudge is not primarily about anger. Anger is loud, and it usually burns out. What actually keeps a grudge alive underneath the anger is something quieter and much harder to release: powerlessness. Research on the psychology of injustice consistently finds that what people struggle to let go of isn't the pain of what happened, it's the fact that they had no say in it. Something was done to them, a decision was made without their input, and closure of any kind depends on someone else's cooperation they may never get. Your mind hates unresolved threats more than it hates almost anything else, and an old injury with no resolution reads to your brain as a threat that is technically still open. Here's the simplest way to picture what's happening underneath. Imagine your mind keeping a single case file open on a desk. Not filed away, not closed, just sitting there, because the verdict never came in. Every time you replay the argument, rehearse the comeback, or imagine the moment they finally understand what they did, you're not torturing yourself for no reason. You're trying to close the file yourself, since nobody else ever did it for you. The problem is, a case can't actually close from the inside. You can rehearse the verdict 1,000 times, and the file stays open because the part of you doing the filing was never the part with the authority to close it. So how does this actually look in daily life? Here are the signs. Sign 1. You can recite the argument with perfect accuracy years later. Most memories fade and blur with time. This one doesn't. You can still quote the exact sentence that hurt the most, the exact tone it was said in, sometimes even where you were standing. Normal memories decay. This one has been preserved, replayed, and reinforced so many times that it's practically been engraved. That's not a coincidence. Every replay strengthens the memory instead of dulling it, which means the very thing you're doing to process the pain is the thing keeping it sharp. Sign 2. You win the argument every single time you replay it, and it never actually helps. In the replay, you're articulate, you're devastating. You say the thing you couldn't say in the moment, and for a second it feels like relief. Then the replay ends, and nothing has changed because you're the only person in the courtroom. The other party was never there to hear the verdict, which means no verdict was ever actually delivered. Sign 3. You've built an entire internal case file, complete with evidence. It's not just the original event anymore. You remember the other slight from years before that fits the pattern. You remember the thing their sibling said once that proves it runs in the family. Every new piece of evidence gets filed under the same case, building a more airtight argument for why you were right to be hurt. This isn't obsession. This is your mind doing exactly what it's built to do when a threat feels unresolved, gathering more proof so the eventual verdict, whenever it comes, will be unshakable. Sign 4. You feel a strange reluctance to imagine actually letting it go. This is the one people rarely admit out loud. Somewhere underneath the pain, there's a flicker of resistance to the idea of forgiving, releasing, moving on. Not because you enjoy the pain, but because letting go feels like it might mean the thing that happened didn't matter, or worse, that it's now allowed to happen again with no consequence. Holding on has quietly started to feel like the only form of justice available to you. Sign 5. You test people against the old wound without meaning to. Someone new does something that reminds you, even slightly, of what happened before, and your reaction is disproportionate to what they actually did. You're not really responding to them. You're responding to the still open case file, and they just happen to walk past it. This is one of the costs almost nobody talks about, because it means the person who hurt you originally is no longer the only one paying for it. Sign 6. Thinking about the situation feels almost involuntary, like your mind returns to it without permission. You don't decide to think about it. You're doing dishes, or driving, or falling asleep, and it simply arrives, uninvited, running the same footage again. That involuntary quality is the clearest sign that this isn't really about choice anymore. It's a loop your nervous system keeps triggering on its own, the same way an unresolved task nags at your attention until it's finished. Now here's the part that matters most, the part almost nobody says out loud. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's not proof that you're vindictive or unable to move on. It's your mind running an old, completely logical program. Unresolved threat, keep monitoring. Unclosed case, keep the file open. Powerlessness, keep searching for control. Every single symptom we just listed makes perfect sense once you understand what the system is actually trying to do. It's trying to protect you from being blindsided the same way again. The tragedy is that the very mechanism built to protect you is the thing keeping the wound open indefinitely, because it was never designed for a threat that has no ending available from the outside. So what does holding on actually cost you? It costs you your present, because a mind running an old case file in the background has less room left for what's actually happening in front of you right now. It costs you your body, because Worthington's research is clear that chronic unforgiveness reads as chronic stress, and chronic stress has a real, measurable physical toll over years. And it costs you the very justice you're trying to get, because the person you're angry at is very likely living their life, largely unaware that a courtroom has been running in your head this entire time, with them as the permanent defendant and you as the only person still showing up. So how do you actually close a case file that was never designed to be closed from the inside? 3 principles. Principle 1. Stop waiting for the verdict you were never going to get. Somewhere inside, you may be waiting for an apology, an admission, a moment where they finally understand what they did. That moment might come. It might not. But your peace cannot stay hostage to someone else's willingness to deliver it. The case doesn't actually need their signature to close. It needs yours. Principle 2. Separate forgiveness from safety. A lot of people resist letting go because they confuse forgiving with forgetting, or with allowing the person back into their life at full trust. Forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. You can release the charge the memory holds over your nervous system while still keeping every boundary you've built since then fully intact. Letting go of the case file doesn't mean reopening the door. Principle 3. Give the powerlessness somewhere else to go. Remember, what actually fuels a grudge is usually not the pain itself, it's the powerlessness underneath it. So instead of only trying to release the grudge directly, look for where else you can rebuild a sense of control in your life right now, today, in situations that have nothing to do with the original event. A mind that feels genuinely capable in the present has far less need to keep refighting a battle from the past. There's an old idea, often attributed loosely to several traditions, that holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It's a nice line, but it slightly misses what's actually happening. You're not choosing to drink poison. Your mind believes it's still standing guard over an open wound, doing its job exactly as designed. The real shift isn't willpower, and it isn't simply deciding to be a bigger person. It's recognizing that the case has been open for so long because you were never actually the one who could close it from where you were standing, and finally understanding that you don't need anyone else's permission to close it now. So tell me, out of the 6 signs we covered today, which one is running in the background of your life right now? Tell me in the comments. And know this. If you've been carrying a case file for months or years that you can't seem to close, it doesn't mean you're bitter, and it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your mind has been standing guard over something it was never given permission to put down. If this video finally gave language to something you've been carrying quietly, hit like and share it with someone who's still replaying an argument that ended a long time ago. They might need to hear that it isn't weakness keeping them there. It's an old system, still doing its job. Subscribe to Mind to Act so we can keep decoding the hidden corners of the mind together. Goodbye, and see you next time.